Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I wanted to let you know that I'm really excited about something I'm about to host at the end of June. It's going to be called Songwriting Soul Retrieval. And in the last week of June, I'm going to be beginning an 8-week dream work experience for songwriters and musicians who wish to develop a really deep relationship between their dreams and their songwriting process. This relationship for me has changed literally everything about my songwriting. At first, I thought that my dreams were simply aiding me in finding my true sound and helping me to tap a level of depth and vulnerability I've only ever skidded around. Which is true. They are doing that for me. But I soon realized this isn't just songwriting. This is soul retrieval. These are songs offered by my dreams from my depths, zones within me, aspects of me whom haven't had a voice in a very long time. Reconnecting with these voices often of pain and grief, of longing for my belonging, voices of my trampled human beauty, voices of this deeper praise and power that's emerging. Our voice is really a collection of voices. It's a chorus. And now, inner peace to me is all of these voices singing in harmony, which feels like a really gorgeous image to me. So if any of that strikes a chord, sorry, and you are a musician or songwriter, I'm not sorry for that. That was ridiculous. I am leaving my email in the show notes. From there, I will be able to give you all of the info on what each of the 8 weeks will entail, that details all of the deep work that we're going to be doing together, what each of the weeks are going to focus on, and what the whole arc of this 8-week journey will really look like. And then we can go from there. I would be deeply honored for you to join me and for you to start your journey of songwriting soul retrieval. Thank you for your time. And now, let's start the show. Our modern Western culture places little to no value on the power of our nightly dreams
to inspire, shift, and reorganize our lives.
This podcast demands a deep reconsideration of
the role our dreams play on our path to a more vital
and meaningful life. The following is living proof
of the life-affirming power of dreams
to effect change
and redirect the trajectory
of our inner and outer lives. These
are the dreams that shape us.
Dreams that shape us.
I like to say that dreams show and you decide. You decide what to do with the perspective they show you and the information they give you. If dreams made your decisions for you, it would work against the ultimate goal of dreaming, for the ego to become more conscious and develop into an equal partner with the unconscious mind. I'm often asked, are my dreams telling me to do this or that or whatnot? And my answer is they aren't telling you to do anything. They're showing you your options. Don't expect them to decide for you. They're showing you options for what may materialize in the future. What will the future you be like? Dreams show you the possibilities for the person you can become, the life you can have, the relationships you can form, and where to find your opportunities. And as many mothers-to-be attest to, their dreams show them the children they may someday have. Fathers-to-be also dream about the children that will materialize in their lives. My co-host Stevie E is about to give you the lowdown on his experience with it. And during Season 1, Episode 12, we heard from Jim, his dream that showed him the future kids he would adopt. As you hear about our guest Tzivia Gover's story about the dream that showed her, despite thinking at the time it would never happen, that she would be a mother one day, Notice how she set the condition for it to happen. She decides to accept motherhood on one condition, and it's a way of saying yes to the possibility. I think this is the ultimate power of manifestation. In so many ways, we decide our futures while dreaming. That's why you really want to pay attention, another reason, to your responses while dreaming, a cornerstone of the 5-star method of dream work taught by Professor Scott Sparrow. And if a dream ends unresolved, feel free to imagine a better outcome and see it happen in your mind's eye. That's a cornerstone of the experiential school of dream work. And that too is a supercharged way to manifest. There is so much more you have to look forward to in this episode. I'm J.M. DeBoard, your co-host. And now, here's Steve and Tzivia.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Dreams That Shape Us podcast. I'm your co-host Steve Ernenwein, and I am here tonight with Tzivia Gover. We have quite the story ahead for you. She is going to be sharing an amazing tale of what she says is an unusual motherhood journey, and we get to see exactly how the dreams have helped shape her in the way of helping guide her and helping her navigate motherhood. From what I know about it, it's going to be a beautiful, heartfelt, maybe at some points heart-wrenching story. And we're happy to have you here. So thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here. I love your mission of sharing the depth of dreams. And so I'm glad to be part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we really love how we're able to show, like, we're not just talking open-endedly about dreams, we're like really diving deeply into exactly how they did what they did. So yeah, it's been such an awesome honor to be able to have people come on here and really share very vulnerably exactly what that looked like for them. So yeah, ahead of time, thank you for being willing to do that yourself. So to begin, Tzivia had reached out to me saying, I love your mission for your podcast, and, dreams have shaped pretty much literally every aspect of my life. Would love to come on your show, and we were sussing out a few different options that she could maybe do. And do you want to tell your side of that story, like how you incubated to figure out which story you wanted to tell?
Yeah. So the title of your podcast and the invitation that you extend to folks who come on is to talk about a dream that shaped them. And as you said so succinctly, dreams have literally shaped every aspect of my life. I mean, every decision I make, I consult them first, or every big decision. And whether I ask for them or not, they come and they weigh in, and I follow. And and it's a conversation, So between myself and my dreams. So when we were talking about the different possibilities, I raised several, and I couldn't decide. You put it back in my court. The dreamer is the authority. And so I asked my dreams. I literally incubated a dream that night. So some of the choices we had talked about were dreams of love and romance, because dreams led me to my husband. We could have done dreams and my work journey, or dreams in my motherhood journey. So I asked my dreams. This was on December 29th, that evening. I said to my dreams before sleep, I'm trying to decide which dream to share on the Dreams That Change Us podcast. And so one of the options was my motherhood journey, or the love dreams, or something else. And then I just said to the dreams, I'm listening. And I had a dream that night that I was baking. And when I pull, what I'm baking out of the oven, it's a sheet cake. And it's a cake for my daughter's birthday, my daughter who's now fully grown. And I put it on the table, which was laid out with other items to eat. and this white sheet cake, white frosting. I put it down on what was a snow-covered table, which is really interesting. And there were other things in the front, including something else with a candle in it. On recall, I couldn't quite picture if it was a menorah with a candle on it. This was shortly after Hanukkah, this dream, or maybe it was another birthday cake with a candle. But in any case, that candle was glowing, but not fully lit. It was more like a glowing spark. And my daughter was facing the table, and I pulled my birthday cake, the one I made for her, to the front of the table so that, we wouldn't burn ourselves leaning over it. That had a candle in it too, of course. And she got a little annoyed at me for rearranging things. But in any case, I said, it's okay. And I pulled the cake forward. And in fact, and this is interesting about my dreams too, the cake turned over and the frosting got marred. It got a little smudged. And I said to my daughter, okay, I can fix that. But I knew there was a lot to mine in this dream, but on the surface, it was very clear that I should share the birthday, how my daughter came to be dream, because this was a dream literally about her birthday. So I called you back, or I emailed you, and I said, well, I know which dream it's going to be. Based on that. And that dream that I just shared is a whole lot longer than the dream we're going to be talking about. So yeah, there it was, that white birthday cake. And I felt like that was my sign that it might not be simple. It might not be easy because there was some issues in the dream, but that this is the dream.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You didn't share the whole dream with me. So yeah, that's really, really cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the synchronicity, I had emailed you the other day saying, well, it'd be really cool if we did this interview on Thursday. So right now we're at Thursday, January 26th, recording this. And yesterday was my birthday.
Right.
So I was like, so yeah, it was just seemed like really cool that it was going to be butted up so close to my birthday when you had your birthday dream that inspired it. So.
Well, Steve, there's yet another layer to that synchronicity now, because in preparing for our interview, I went back to the journal that had that original dream that we're going to get to quite soon, I'm sure, unless our synchronicities keep taking us on this other journey. And, one of the aspects of the story of how I became a mother is that I never intended to be a mother. I didn't want to be. I was quite clear about that all up until my early 20s. And I met a woman who I fell in love with, and she is the one with whom I had my daughter. She gave birth to her, and we co-parented her together. Well, going through my diaries, I came across the day I met my daughter's other mother, and it was January 25th.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I thought to myself, oh, it's too bad we aren't I thought it's so close. It would have been cool if we were actually doing this interview on the 25th.
Oh, man.
That the 25th was your birthday. So I'm already getting chills.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like this is meant to be, very much so then. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's quite the introduction to this whole story. So I guess to begin, I'd like to give the listeners and our guests the opportunity to kind of, so you just kind of told a little bit about, the story, but if you could kind of give us an idea, like, where you were in your life, like leading up to, maybe having your daughter, just to kind of give us some backstory on you and where you were at that point in your life. You said you were very firm on not wanting a child. So,
yeah.
What all happened there that changed that for you, I guess?
Well, what happened was I fell in love with somebody who wanted a baby, but how it all went down was ever since I was very young, I remember being about 12 years old and talking to my grandmother, who's a very traditional Jewish woman, and telling her that I had no intention of having children, and that if I ever did have children, I would want to adopt. And, she practically fell off her chair. She was appalled. But that was very clear to me. I felt like I had a lot of things I wanted to do in life. And, this was back in the early 70s, I guess. And I didn't see that you could have a baby and also do all the things I wanted to do with my life. So I was very clear about that. And in fact, when I came out as a lesbian in college, and I told my mom, she was fine. She was actually cheerful and enthusiastic. She knew the woman I'd fallen in love with. This is not my daughter's mother. This was previous. And she said, my only regret for you is that you won't have children. And I said, no, this is to me like, one of the bonuses. So, fast forward just a few years to, I was out of college. I was living on my own, and I was taking karate classes, and I met another woman who I just fell head over heels with. And she was very interesting. She was artistic and just very different and beautiful. And we fell in love, and it turned out, I found out, within a month or two of being together, that one of her biggest life goals, visions for herself, was to be a mother. And that was a problem. But I was young, and my understanding of this relationship after much discussion was, if I wanted to be with her, I needed to get on board with this. And she was a good convincer. She made a good case. And so this was well after I had the dream that we're going to talk about. That's how I became a mother. A co-parent is what we called me. But yeah, a mom.
Wow. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I'm impressed that you're willing to. I mean, I guess love does that, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially when you're young like that.
Yeah.
We were young.
So this dream that you were going to bring to me, when did this happen? Before she was pregnant, or did that happen? Yeah.
So literally, this dream came within a week or two after I met her. Oh. So very soon after we met. And believe me, I had no idea what to make of this dream. So if you want, I can just tell you the dream. I have it right here. I've dug out the journal.
Yeah. So to preface this real quick, when she emailed me this dream, she said, this will probably be the shortest dream that you've ever had hosted on your podcast. And what I thought was just the title of the dream, and then she forgot to fill in the blanks throughout the rest of her email. I got to the end, and then I realized when I reread it that no, it wasn't the title. That was the whole dream. That's so awesome. So yeah, please feel free to share that.
Well, now that I have the actual journal in front of me, it's maybe a sentence longer than what I sent you.
Okay.
I see a woman coming out of the blackness, holding a baby. She is robed. I don't have the feeling the baby was hers. I said, "You're too early." And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think all you told me was a robed woman hands me a baby or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, that's actually, that gives me a whole different sight for what that dream means for you then. Especially if you're saying you're here too early.
Yeah.
Almost like you're just inside of this relationship. Like, you can't bring this to me just yet.
Yeah. Huh. And within, let's see, that was 83. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. My daughter was born 5 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. So the significance of this dream, I mean, I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, but because I had no intention, I mean, for me, having a baby was nowhere in my consciousness. So I forgot this dream. I didn't remember it at all. I didn't write any commentary about it in my journal. It was just weird. And and I was somebody who wrote down my dreams, just about every morning. So it was, to me, it was a forgettable dream. And I only rediscovered it 26 years later. Wow. And realized, wow. So we can talk about that later. But when I found the dream again is when the dream really shaped me. Because it didn't shape me at first because I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't remember it. I just wrote it down.
Okay. Yeah. So let's save that then. And then we'll circle back and we'll like really see exactly how that whole epiphany happens for you. So I guess moving forward, do you want to talk about, the struggle and the separation that you had to endure with your partner?
Yeah. I mean, that's the big part of the story. So,
or how would you lead? Do you want to talk about the birth of? Let's go. Let's start there. Let's talk to the birthday part.
So the actual, when my daughter was born.
Yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about that whole experience for you, and especially being someone who didn't want to have a child, like how powerful was it for you to experience a birth?
Exactly. It was really amazing, and life, obviously, any baby being born is life-changing, but it certainly changed my understanding of who I am and who I could be, and the wonders of, I don't know what it is, human biology, being a woman. But in any case, when my partner was 3 months pregnant, around then, when you hear the baby's heartbeat, I fell in love with that baby right then and there. And I did have some dreams. I think we both had dreams of her before she was born. In those days, we did not know the gender, but we did dream a little girl, that we were having a girl. And when she was born, it was just an amazing, miraculous moment. I expected childbirth to be upsetting for the baby. I thought it would be traumatic for the baby. It just seemed like going from that watery womb into this bright, we were in a hospital room, would be terrible. But she just arrived on this planet with her eyes wide open, looking around like she had just landed in a miracle. And I just saw her glowing from the inside, just light radiating from her. And as it turns out, my partner, who wanted the baby so badly because of some physical problems at the birth, she wasn't really able to be so present in the early weeks of my daughter's life. So I really had to step up. I had planned to be sort of in the background as, more in a 1950s dad role, like I'll go and you take care of her. But I ended up having to be very hands-on right from the beginning, and my maternal instinct, which I did not know I possessed, kicked in. And, I was just so in love with this baby, and she was my world. And unfortunately, after about a year and a half, my relationship with her mom really deteriorated. And it turned out, in retrospect, I didn't have the emotional intelligence at the time to understand, or just the knowledge of the world. But it turned out my partner had a mental illness, and it might have gotten worse from the hormonal changes of pregnancy and birth. I know that sometimes happens. And we did end up breaking up, and I moved out. And I had my daughter on weekends and holidays, and we lived close by, so I was able to drop in a fair amount. But ultimately, when my daughter was coming up on her 5th birthday and my partner's mental illness was getting worse and worse, and I did try to get custody because I was afraid for the safety of my daughter. And that custody battle did not end well for me. The lesbians had absolutely no legal rights whatsoever, even here in Massachusetts.
Oh, man.
And I lost custody of her. But not only that, my partner and her family would not let me have any contact with my daughter for several years, about 5 years.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, heartbreaking, soul shattering, really devastating. Anyway, eventually my daughter did end up coming to live with me. The ins and outs of the story are difficult, but you can pretty much imagine. There were custody battles, there was negotiation since we had to finally operate outside of the law because the law did not recognize me. But ultimately, for the best interest of my daughter, she did come live with me. And of course, by then, because she had gone through a lot, she, had her own problems and that we needed to work with. So it was a really challenging journey. It was a very beautiful journey. It was full of love, but also full of a lot of heartache and a lot of challenge. And my daughter's grown to be an amazing, wise, beautiful, wonderful, talented woman. But, she has had her own struggles. And so it was when she was full grown and having some of her own heartbreak that this dream kicked in again for me. I'll pause there just so everybody can catch up because that's a really full story.
Yeah, we can slow it down for just a minute. I just think that the way you told the whole story of the birth was absolutely so touching. I'm pretty fresh in it right now. We just had my daughter, and I think that's probably why I was getting really choked up over here on the other end. We just had her birth at the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, and the last 2 years since COVID happened, Erica and I have had to go, we've went through 2 miscarriages, and we had several dreams surrounding both of those miscarriages of a baby girl. And when she got pregnant this last time, we were just praying to God that this one was going to stick, and it did. And she's with us now, and when we found out it was a baby girl, we just both just melted into each other and into the bed. We were just like, oh my God, she's actually coming. And yeah, so that was so beautiful. And when we had our son, I have a son also, and he just turned 6 in October, and I remember the first time I heard his heartbeat, and I just I don't even know if I could speak that without crying right now, but it man, it cemented something so deep inside of me that I just can't even, I don't even know if I could put words to it. You said it so beautifully. I just just edified something inside of me and it just granted me this look at a love that I just never knew could live inside of me.
Exactly.
And oh my God.
I hear you. I mean, that is just the miracle of becoming a parent. And since I hadn't wanted to be a parent, I had a lot of friends, maybe that's just what happens, who also didn't want to be parents. And then once I started this journey, I realized, wow, there is a kind of love out there that I did not even know existed.
Exactly.
I didn't have, just like you're saying, I didn't know how to explain it to other people, and I didn't even know if I should. Because for people who or don't want to have children, I thought, I just keep this to myself, as a little gem inside me. Yeah, it's a miracle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy for you to be in
Thank you.
that list now, and that's so beautiful.
Yeah, we're just through the moon because
Mhm.
I just turned 37 yesterday. She's gonna turn 40 here soon, and we're like, I don't know how many more chances we have, and I don't know how many more times we could take on that kind of heartache trying. So this was like basically our last. I don't know if we would have been able to try again. So
Mm.
I'm kind of hoping, crossing my fingers here, that maybe I can get her to come on the podcast later this year and we can tell the whole story and all the beautiful dreams that accompanied all of that. I don't know if I'll be able to get her to do it, but maybe she'll accept Jason interviewing me and letting me tell the story. So,
Oh, that would be
because
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So to circle back to your story, before we get too much into what that initial dream held for you, I know you had said to me in email that, especially during the time where you weren't able to be with your daughter or see her at all, that you had quite a few experiences that felt like they were really allowing you to stay connected with her, and maybe you had a few dreams around that time that
Yeah.
aided you in that. If you want to speak to any of that.
Absolutely. So I don't have any real specific ones, but I'll tell you the kinds of things that would happen, and they happen to this day. So maybe some of this is more the kind of psychic connection between a parent and child. But when we first lived separately, I would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and hear her crying my name. Obviously, I was nowhere within hearing distance, and I would call my ex in the morning and ask how my daughter was doing, and my ex would say something like, "Oh my goodness, she woke up in the middle of the night calling for you," you know.
Oh man.
Yeah, or I would have a dream that she had a tummy ache, and then I'd go pick her up the next day, and my ex would say, "Oh, be careful what she eats. She's been having a tummy ache," or all that sort of thing. And then, of course, during the time when I could have no contact, my dreams were just always there. And it's not only this difficulty; I've had other difficulties in my life, other losses, and the whole nine yards. And the dreams they keep me going.
Yeah.
They give me that support and encouragement and remind me that there's a big story of love here. And even to this day, it happened just the other day. I called up my daughter, and I said, "How you doing?" And she said, "Not so good." And I said, "Yeah, I knew." And she said, "Yeah, I knew you knew." It was just like, and I said, "And I knew you knew that I knew." And I was trying to give you space. It's just that connection that comes through dreams and intuitions. And I think that most parents would be able to tell a similar story, but because of the separations, it was very pronounced at times.
Yeah.
So,
I bet.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems like that takes a mother's intuition to a whole new level.
I think it amps up.
Be a dreamer, and the mother intuition is crazy accurate.
Right? Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you know Maureen Boyd Bureau?
Yes, I do.
She shared, I don't know if you've listened to this episode. I think you would listen to maybe a couple of them. She shared this really beautiful story of her mother going through Alzheimer's and the connection that the two of them had during that time period through her dreams.
Yeah.
And oh man, it just really highlighted so beautifully, like how really intense like the mother-daughter connection is.
Yeah.
And I just was like baffled. Now, and to hear you talk in the same way, it just makes me really curious. How, I guess, how prevalent that really is between mothers and daughters, especially if you are someone who is more in tune in that way. If there really is like a really special bond like that. I mean, because you don't have a son, right?
No.
Okay.
But
It'd be interesting if you could tell me if it's different between you and
that's a good question. My mom
Yeah.
and I had it. She's dead. She's passed on, but we still have it, and we had it
Yeah.
through her Alzheimer's as well.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so and then I was going to say the interesting thing about my daughter and me, if anybody ever wants to do a study of this, we're not biologically related. So when I say, my maternal
Oh, that's true too, huh?
talk about our psychic connection that mothers and daughters have. It's interesting because I often forget we don't have a biological connection, and sometimes either one of us will say something, and then like, oh, you probably inherited that. Oh no, you couldn't have. We forget we do not have a biological connection, and my mom and I do, but it doesn't seem very different between. If anything, my daughter and I have a stronger one.
Right. Yeah.
They're both strong. So, yeah.
It's a soul connection.
That's right. Yeah. It's not all biology. Plenty of stuff is, but.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's really, really cool. Well, I would be really curious to hear back from you if you listen to that story and how it might mirror and reflect your own journey with your mother and Alzheimer's, because, man, her story is really just quite unbelievable in the way that her dreams really aided her navigating that with her mom.
I will look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll relate.
Yeah. So let's see. If you want to move just forward from the separation and talk, do you have any? I'm trying to remember from your emails if you said you had any dreams once she came to live with you. That wasn't there?
Yeah,
your bliss. Your bliss dream.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reminding me of that one. I was thinking of a different one. So that was a great one. So great in terms of the dream that taught me a lot, and it taught me a lot about how dreams work and how we can work with them. So what happened there was my daughter's teenage years, not surprisingly, were very challenging because she had a lot to heal from. She'd been through a lot. And so her teenage years were very challenging, which meant her teenage years were also very challenging for me. And she was very rebellious at the time. And she took out a lot of her anger and hurt on me, because I was a stable presence and I was her mom, and moms are punching bags sometimes. It was a really hard time. And during, I think she was either towards the end of high school or the beginning of college. She went to college nearby. My partner, my newer partner at the time, had just walked out and left me mostly. And so I was pretty devastated. So I had asked my dreams to show me true happiness, to show me bliss. So I needed some hope there. And the dreams complied beautifully. And so the way that dream came was, in the dream, I'm holding a basket of dirty laundry. And I'm walking into my daughter's bedroom, which looked as it would in waking life, as if a bomb went off in there. And the dream was perfectly realistic. And the only thing that was different was on a cabinet in her room, there was like a little light glowing, like from the wooden finish. And so I got lucid. I realized, okay, this is a dream. And so I just kept watching that light, and the light turned into these beautiful, glowing, peacock-type colors. And I just let myself, because I knew I was in a dream, get lost in those colors. And I remembered my intention to show me bliss. And so I just started to rock in these colors. Sort of took on like a quality of tangibility, in that I could just be in them and be rocked. And it turned into like a midnight sky, and all of the me disappeared. There was just a point of consciousness left. So I was enveloped in the oneness, and it was so beautiful. And I just woke up from that dream and I rode on that beautiful wave of feeling embraced by the one and, having so little ego left that I could just experience true bliss. So, that was cool. And I could have just left it there. And I did for a while. It's just like, I'm just going to enjoy that dream. But then I started to wonder, why did that dream start with me holding a basket of dirty laundry at the threshold of my daughter's bedroom, like her mess of a bedroom? And I pondered that, and I learned from that dream that I found bliss at the edge of the mess, at the edge of this. Was being at that moment a really difficult relationship, full of hurt and heartache and anger, and my daughter resisting me and putting up her walls, and in response I was putting up my walls. And as I worked with that dream, I realized the truth of that bliss comes when we work through and face consciously, because this did turn into a lucid dream, our most difficult moments, our most difficult relationships.
Wow.
And I stayed with it, and I took it as a call to unilaterally let down some of my defenses and try to soften my relationship with my daughter in that phase of our lives. And that dream and many others over time reminded me, to soften, to listen more, to be vulnerable with her, and to improve our relationship. So that was that particular dream was a real turning point.
Wow. That is so cool. I love the fact that even the act of becoming lucid is looked at as like having conscious awareness of facing these issues consciously and head on. That's so cool that even that, because I think a lot of people, when they have lucid dreams, they don't even look at it symbolically at that point, but they're from my experience with lucid dreaming, there's still so much symbolic worth within within lucid dream that that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, there's so much fun to just experience, but there's still in the realm of the dream. So all of the imagery, even if we have requested something in a lucid dream, we can't control exactly how it's going to turn up. So there's always imagery to listen to respond to let it speak to us.
Yeah. It actually brings to mind something my partner just sent to me the other day. She sent me this, oh man, it just made me bawl because it just hit all those perfect little parent traps as far as like, oh man, let me see if I can even begin to kind of rehash it. It was basically kind of reminding you as a parent that these days are fleeting, and the child sleeping in between you and your partner in your bed with their feet in your face and all crooked and cockeyed in the bed and keeping you up all night and tugging on your sleeve and saying, look at this. All these like little things that over time kind of get like, God, what now? And we kind of get frustrated over these things are fleeting, and they're not going to always be there to tug on your shoulder to say, look at this, mommy, or look at this, daddy, and to really cherish these moments. And that was like the first thing that hit me when you started telling your dream, was that holding the dirty basket of dirty laundry, staring into the complete mess of a room, that this is where you find your bliss right now, because it's not always going to be this way, and you're not always going to have her here with you like that. And that's I like your spin on it too. That's just like personally how that image like really spoke to me. It was like you gotta find it here and now, because she's almost out of the house. She's almost gone.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
you're gonna wish that you had this dirty mess to pick up.
Right. Yeah. I love what you saw on that. That's awesome. And not just this dream, but every time I share any dream that I've shared many times, I always learn something new. So that is really beautiful.
Yeah. I was one of she sends me posts like that all the time, and I just like, I'm at work and all of a sudden I just like have to put the phone down as I'm sitting there bawling. I'm like, people are gonna see me and go, what is wrong with this guy? He's always over there crying in the corner.
Oh.
I don't know, man. There's something about being a dad. I've always been kind of a softie at heart, but ever since I've become a dad, I just like, especially if there's like a dad movie, like a movie surrounding like a really hard dad relationship, or like a big reconciliatory like movie with a dad, or the dad dies or anything like that. Like, oh my God, I just can't even, I'm just a mess.
Oh.
By the end of it, I'm like, man, I cannot do these dad movies anymore. Like, holy cow.
What a great I don't know. It's just a great statement about the quality of your heart and your love and strength to be able to show that vulnerability. I know you say, "Oh, I don't want people to see me," but you're letting it out. That's great.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I could share a couple dreams that have helped me with fatherhood, if you're up for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting. A few years ago, when I was already a couple of years into being a dad, I was listening to this podcast about it was like a men's work podcast, and these two men were talking about their experience of fatherhood, and one of them said, I heard that sometimes fatherhood comes on later for men, that it takes some time for that impulse to kind of kick in for them. And it's not that I wasn't all in right off the bat, kind of like what I said earlier. Like, as soon as I heard that heartbeat, something so deep and true and beautiful within me just broke wide open. But there's there's no preparation that you can have prior to becoming a parent that is sufficient in preparing you for that. And I felt like I was just fumbling through it for like the first year. And at least for a dad, like it's not impossible to form a deep bond with your child, even though they're not exhibiting a whole lot of personality right off the bat. And it just continues to build over the course of that first year. And but it's still, it's hard to, as a man, it's hard to connect with your child until they really have a personality and they're able to actually engage with you. And it seems like it's a little bit more natural for a woman. I don't know if that's because they've been cooking the baby for 9 months and their body is all in already, that it's just a natural. And maybe even that's wrong. Maybe I can't even say that. Maybe some mothers, I'm sure, postpartum have a hard time with that as well. But for me, hearing that was like, wow, it just made this one dream that I had about a year into him being born that was like, yeah, I feel like right about that point when I had that dream was a big turning point for me and him, where I stopped resisting fatherhood so much. And I finally leaned into it. Like, before, it was like every stage in that first year, there's so many stages so quickly that you're constantly throwing off your game. Like, as soon as you get used to one stage, all of a sudden there's this whole new set of parameters surrounding it that you're like, oh my God, this is too much too soon all the time. And so, yeah, I had this dream where I was in my apartment that I was living in at the time, and there was a few people in the room, but the only person that I actually remember that was there was my father. And all of a sudden something catches my eye out the window, and I'm looking, and there's this blue and black hummingbird, and it's just kind of zipping kind of in place, just kind of back and forth real just within the scope of the window. And as it's sitting there flapping its wings, the wings become bigger and bigger and slow down, and then eventually they just lay flat against the window, and it's a butterfly now.
Oh, wow.
And it's, if you've ever seen that really striking black butterfly that has like the blue dot, it was one of those butterflies, and it was so big and so gorgeous. And me and my father at the very exact same time say out loud, "Wow, I've never seen anything like that." And then we both like snap our heads towards each other and like look at each other like, what the heck was that? Like, this moment feels even more intense, that we just jinxed each other. And yeah, it was like right after that dream, something like really shifted for me. And yeah, I can't, this is 5 or 6 years ago now, so I can't even really remember exactly what that moment was for me. But I mean, the hummingbird mashup with the butterfly was such a beautiful symbol of like, I don't know, hummingbirds to me like have such a joy, and they just feel like abundant energy, and for it to transform into the butterfly just felt like such a beautiful moment of transformation, of there being some way that joy was kind of blossoming at that moment for me, where it was a joyful experience and not so much a resisting the immense responsibility that fatherhood was for me. And so yeah, that was one that was really, really, really beautiful. And the couple months leading up to after that, I had a handful of dreams that were really bringing home the whole notion of the sacrificial father, and just giving me like these really beautiful like images and these very archetypal ways of what the father energy in its height could really look like.
Wow.
And a couple of those dreams looked like, I was just reviewing these today. One of them was I was just a third person point of view watching the dream happen, and there was this father who was playing hockey with his son, and the father was so graceful on the ice and was heading towards the goal, and just before he's about to hit it, he stops and he passes it over to his son for his son to take a shot. And there was this beautiful notion in there. It just felt like, yeah, he could have taken that shot and he could have totally sank it if he wanted to, but it didn't matter to him. The win-lose, the that whole dichotomy, like that wasn't anywhere in his field of vision. All he cared about was trying to unlock some untapped potential inside of his son. And it was so gorgeous, and it didn't matter if his son missed a shot or not. It was all about him trying to find his own beautiful potential. And so I had quite a few dreams like that, and there was this one beautiful dream where this was really the sacrificial one. I shared this in an earlier episode where this guy talked about his process of adopting his kids, and I shared this dream in that one, but I'll just share it with you real quick. I was overhearing two men talk, and it was understood that the one was a father, and he was explaining to the other man that he worked as like a diamond miner, and that he spent all this time trying to mine these diamonds for his daughter. And he reaches in his pockets and he pulls out just like scrap pieces of paper and like lint. And it was like this gesture that this is all I have after all of it. And everything that I do and everything that I earn and everything that I am is given to her, as a beautifully selfless act to help her to grow and to become the person that she's meant to be. And man, really hit home. And I was reading, I don't know if you've ever read Toko Pa Turner's book, Belonging, but right, like 2 days after I had that dream, I was reading her book, and there was this point in the book where she talks about living your life as an offering to the debt that can't be repaid.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, if that isn't what like parental sacrifice is all about, like, I don't know what is.
Right.
Like, as a parent, we're so willing to just give our time and ourselves so fully and so completely, because the debt of beauty that we're given in the form of our children is so immense that we don't know any other way to even begin to pay God back for that beauty in our lives. And man, so yeah, just a whole slew of really beautiful dreams, like really trying to hammer home just a beautiful vision of what fatherhood could be for me if I really did lean in and own the responsibility and the duty that was before me. So yeah, that.
Wow, those are really amazing, beautiful, beautiful dreams. And the sacrificial father, I feel like, I could really relate to that. In my parenthood journey, there was, so much sacrifice. And that word sacrifice, I'm torn. Half of me wants to just talk about those dreams specifically, but the theme of the sacrificial parent rings really deeply for me. During the time when I'd lost my daughter, when I couldn't contact her, that was just about 5 years to the day. And it was so devastatingly hard. And I had a waking dream experience. I don't know what you would call this. It was in the middle of the night, and I woke up. And really, I functioned really well during those years, but I was so deeply broken. And, there was a lot of lying on the couch and wondering, how do I move? How do I go on to the next thing? So it was a really intense time. But one night I woke up in the middle of the night, and my then partner was sleeping in the bed, and I went downstairs. I was just moved. The biblical story of Abraham and Isaac on the mountain where, Abraham's told by God to sacrifice his son, came to me. I don't know why that story came to me, but I went downstairs, and it was like one of those spiritual epiphanies where I understood that story suddenly, that what that story meant was nothing belongs to us. And my daughter never belonged to me, and she didn't belong to her other mother. She didn't belong to any of us. Everything belonged to God. And for whatever reason, that story, that imagery let me let go. And I just felt it. I felt liberated. I just felt like I did like a little mini ritual in the middle of the night downstairs. I just like collected stuff, pictures of my daughter, and I found some of those beads from Mardi Gras, those plastic beads, and I made like a little altar with the beads and her pictures, and just sort of, in my mind and heart, I just let go. I turned her over to God, and I was okay. And for the first time, I was okay. I was accepted, and that was beautiful. I was on this cushion of spiritual liberation and peace for the first time, and maybe ever in my life. And I don't remember if it was a few days or a week later, I get a phone call after 5 years, and it was my ex saying, "There's someone who wants to talk to you." And that was my daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. So that wasn't exactly a dream, but it was kind of like one.
Yeah, for sure.
I wasn't going to share that, but that when you brought up that theme of the sacrificial parent, yeah.
No, I'm so glad you did. That's really so heartfelt. I'm curious if you know the poem by Khalil Gibran.
Yes.
On children.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one. That's some deep wisdom.
Yeah, that just came to mind when you were talking about how,
Sons and the
they're really not our children. Uh, yeah, it's so funny. My mother used to actually recite that poem to my brother
daughters.
when he was a kid, and he would cry and get all upset. And he'd be like, "What do you mean I'm not your child?"
Oh, that's a little much for a little kid to take in.
Yeah.
That is that.
So if you've never heard that poem out, anybody listening, the first line of it says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." And so that's the line that my brother used to get all upset about.
Oh.
Poor guy.
Sweet
But
Honey in the Rock has a beautiful. People should look that up too. The Sweet Honey in the Rock. Put that to music in a real beautiful way.
ooh,
Yeah,
yeah, I've never heard of that, so I'll have to
yeah,
look that up.
that's gorgeous. Look it up. Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah.
So is there anything else that you can add to this story that you would like to say before we circle back to that first dream?
Well, yeah. So the thing about the dream that I came with, the first dream about the woman, the robed woman, handing me my daughter, handing me a baby. So just about a year ago or a year and a half ago, I was looking through. As I mentioned, I didn't remember that dream.
Mhm.
A year and a half ago, for one thing, my daughter was going through a very, very hard time in her life. I didn't know how I could help her. I was devastated once again. My nerves were shot. I just felt like I couldn't take any more hard things. And I just felt like being a mother was just too hard. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, I felt like I was always being asked to do something more than I knew how to do. And so that was in the background. And in the foreground, I can't remember what it was, but there was something I wanted to remember from, when I was around that age. I wish I could remember what I was looking for, but I went to my old journals to look it up. And I stumbled upon this dream that I told you of, the robed woman. And when I opened my journal to that page and read that dream, it was again one of those people listening to this and think I have an epiphany every day, but we're talking about decades. We've spaced out over decades. But I opened, my life as a dreamer, it is pretty intense. But I open up this journal and I see that dream. And again, I just knew in that deepest way that something like we were destined for each other.
Yeah.
I was meant to be the mother of this child, even though my will was totally otherwise, leading up to having her. I never wanted to have a child, but she was meant for me, and that dream just confirmed it, and I was meant for her. And that gave me a sense of peace and strength for the challenge we were facing in that moment. And the title of your podcast, The Dreams That Shape Us, and you talk a lot about story, about telling your story through your dreams. And what this taught me, among many other things, is keep a dream journal, because you're going to get dreams that are the most important to you. So keep that dream journal and refer back to it from time to time. But also that one of the ways that dreams give us strength is to help us to know our story. I couldn't see my own story until I saw that dream. I couldn't see that it's not necessarily what I want out of life, but what life wants for me. And life had a plan for me. And that plan was for me to be this particular mother to this particular girl. And it just shifted everything for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I just had the straight, and that next doorway that my daughter and I walked through together in our lives has been the most beautiful so far. And despite the fact that I've been sharing a lot of the challenges, obviously there's been lots of beauty and joy and love in this story too. But that dream helped launch me and give me the strength for the next chapter and to embrace everything all again in a whole new way. And in fact, I'm trying to get the chronology right on this, but the next time I saw my daughter, we were in New York City and we were meeting somewhere. And when I saw her and hugged her, it just felt different. It just felt like I was embracing that baby from the dream again.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how that dream shaped me. It helped me shape the story.
Yeah, it almost feels like, I mean, that moment sounds so beautiful. It almost feels like in that moment, instead of telling the robed woman you're too early, you finally said, no, you were right on time.
Exactly.
This was, wow.
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that so amazing? Like, there's so many dreams I've had like that where it's like decades later.
Yeah.
It reveals itself in such a poignant way where you're just like, oh my God, that everything that I've just been through has been so validated and understanding now, like,
Yeah.
that you've been, whatever that wisdom is, like, you've been with me this whole time. You knew exactly who I was before I even knew it myself. And yeah, there's just so much grace that you feel in those moments where it's just like, it just makes it all right and makes it all worth it. And yeah, so everybody make sure you're writing your dreams down, because
Yeah.
even the ones that, like she said, that you think are just throwaway dreams, who knows, in 25 years, you might look back at it and go, holy crap.
That's the key. That was the key I needed to unlock my life story. They're pretty amazing. They're pretty amazing. I don't know how people who don't remember their dreams get through their days.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I tell people all the time, where I'm just like, I really, like, I've been doing this for 17 years now, and I don't even know how to reconcile who I would have become had I not had my dreams like erupt in my life the way they did. And like, just how much they've given me over the course of the last almost 2 decades. Like, holy cow, I can't even imagine not having that guiding force in my life. Like, oh man.
Yeah, it's that other dimension. I mean, it's a dimension of beauty. It's a spiritual dimension for sure. It's a dimension of meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meaningful. Yes. Yeah.
So to bring it back to the more recent dream about the birth.
One question I have for you real quick is, who do you think the robed woman is? Like, do you have any feelings about who that character is? Not that you might, I mean, it's probably archetypal, but if you have any thoughts on that aspect of the dream.
I just think of her as a priestess. I don't have a visual memory of that dream anymore because it was so long ago. So I only have that very vague description from the journal. So another call for folks to put in as much detail as you can, as you have time for. But I have had a robed woman show up over the years that looked like a priestess or goddess type, or somebody who serves the goddess. And you could probably tell from the story I told about Abraham and Isaac, I have a pretty traditional sense of religion in a lot of ways. So I've never, until recently, really thought too much about goddesses, but I imagine maybe she is a priestess who serves the goddess or the divine feminine. And she's shown up, or that type of character has shown up, when I was looking for love after after that breakup that I mentioned of the partner who I was with until about, I don't know, 15 years ago. And the one that led me to the series of dreams that led me to my husband also had a priestess who handed me an engagement ring. It's a wedding ring at some point, just like that other one handed me the baby. And again, several years before I actually met my husband. But so that's who I think she is. I think she's some kind of divine feminine who's, maybe like an angelic figure who is watching me. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
The baby clearly wasn't hers. She got this from somewhere.
Yeah, it was yours.
Yeah, it's mine. It's mine. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So cool.
Yeah. So
well, let's talk about the birthday dream real quick.
Next time I encounter that priestess, I'll have to ask her who she is.
Yeah. Very cool.
So that dream, it helped me choose what to talk to you about today. And now that we've gone in deep, I can see it was the right dream. Mm-hmm. But then just a few days after I had it, I was FaceTiming with my daughter, who was again going through a crisis. She was going through, and I won't share too much about her crises because that's her life. But, she needed me and she was sad and having a hard time. And while we're talking, she is baking a cake. And I'm like, we're on FaceTime. So I'm like, oh, so the cake was for one of her dear friends who was having a gender reveal party. Now, this was new to me, but the young people these days, maybe you and your wife did this. They have a party to announce the gender of the baby. And so my daughter, who's the godmother of this child who's on its way, was baking a cake for the occasion. I said, oh, honey, show me the cake. And so she pointed her camera at the cake, and it is a pure white cake.
Oh, my God.
And the one in my dream was the shape of a sheet pan cake, but this one was the shape of a birthday cake. And it just looked so much like my dream. I just was, again, I had the chills. Here we are again with another birth story happening. This baby's born, and this white cake that's so reminiscent of my dream is there. And it's my own daughter baking it. It was just, amazing.
Jeez, so many layers to this dream of how everything's interconnecting. That's so crazy.
It was so many synchronicities.
Wow.
Yeah. There you have it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What do you make of like the whole like flipping of the cake over?
Yeah.
And all of that. Have you sank into any of that?
Well, I don't know for sure, but the feeling sense I have is it has been a journey that has, there's the frosting has not been smooth and easy. They say it's the icing on the cake, and our cake has, had some messy icing moments. So there's definitely that. I think that it reveals some of my own nervousness about talking about this story. I shared that right up front with you in the emails that I was, I speak publicly a lot. I write memoir. I tell my story a lot, but it's still a very tender story, and I was nervous about it. And so I think there was that feeling of, I hope I'm not rearranging things, in the dream that was like I had rearranged things and made a mess. Like, I don't want to make a mess of this. I want to be respectful of my daughter. I want to be respectful of her story. So I thought a lot about how much I want to share and what I want to share, and to really stick with my part of the story as much as I can. So that helped me prepare for this discussion in that way. And I also think I won't know 100% right now what all of it means. It'll keep unfolding.
Yeah, that feels right on to me. Yeah, something that I was just telling Jason. We just released our two-year anniversary episode, and in that conversation with him, I was telling him how interesting I think it is that us dream workers really love talking about our dreams, but it seems like whenever I ask somebody to come on here to talk about their dreams, there's like a lot of trepidation about it. And I'm like, it really does put you in the hot seat and really forces you to bare your soul. And I'm so deeply grateful that so many people have been so forthright with their stories and their dreams and everything that it's meant for them, because this is the dreams that shape us, and I don't think you can really honestly bring a story to this format that isn't messy in some way. Because for you to be shaped by a story or life situation or your dreams in general, there's always some challenge, there's always some hardship, there's always some heartache that happens, that through living through it or living into it, that's how you become shaped by it, that it gets to work on you. And yeah, it's
I like
so yeah, everybody that comes on here always has a sense of trepidation, and there's a few people that didn't voice it, but I know for sure that it had to have been that case. But especially the ones that are really sharing something close to the chest. That's even myself included, even with how open I think that I am. As soon as I really have to bear stuff, I'm like, no, this is actually not very easy, and I need to make sure that I realize that when I'm asking people to come on here and do it, that I got to be willing to do it myself. And
yeah
so yeah,
and so maybe that's part of what that messed up icing is about too. It's the fact that you're not going to be able to have a perfect facade if you're going to be sharing dreams. And I know when my daughter was very little, she would tell me her dreams. She would just very easily tell me her dreams, and I loved hearing them. And when I heard them, I would feel like I was getting to see a little bit into her soul. And as she got older and got to know me in dreams, she stopped telling them to me because she knew that I could see a little bit into her soul. And so she just stopped, when she didn't want to be open with me, she stopped sharing her dreams with me for many years, through those years. And now, then once she got to be in her 20s or whatever, she started sharing them again. But the point is, we know that when we share a dream, we're not fully in control of what we're sharing.
Yeah.
That we're revealing a lot more than we know. And so that is scary. And, Jung said something to the effect of dreams are not winning any popularity contests because, once you take this journey, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. I mean, some deep, dark, complicated stuff. But like that dream I shared about the dirty laundry, if you're willing to go into that, then you really can get to, not just simple hallmark happiness, but the real true joy and bliss.
Yeah.
So it's a rocky road, it's a messed up cake. But it's real.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Very human. Yeah, I love what you said about her not wanting to share, because I know a lot of people have patted me on the back and were like, yeah, well, it's so great that he's going to grow up in a household that really cherishes dreams. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's one thing for me to try to foster that in him, but it's going to be another thing whether he actually really, is that going to become a point where like a form of rebellion where that's like you said, like I imagine a teenager would feel like, well, that's way too exposing, and especially if the parent really knows their stuff with dream work. like that's a little too much information maybe to these authoritative people that are trying to control my life already, to give them access to my dreams. Like that's
I think
but something that just happened the other day that I think I'll share with you, because I think it'll add something here too. Was I ask my son all the time, he's 6, if he had a dream, and a lot of times he'll say no, and I can't, for a while there I couldn't tell if like it was that he actually wasn't remembering them or if he just didn't want to share them. Because sometimes he will, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds exactly like a dream. And sometimes it's like he wants to impress me, and so he'll make one up that doesn't. Sounds like he's like looking around the room and he's like adding things, and none of it's adding up to being like an actual coherent like telling of a dream. And so the other day he had woken up in the middle of the night to a nightmare, and I didn't press him for details in the middle of the night, but when we woke up, I was asking him, so do you remember what that nightmare was that you had when you woke up in the middle of the night? And he said, no, I don't. And I was like, I had a really hard dream this morning too. It was really scary to me. And he goes, really? And I was like, yeah. And I told him it in full, and his eyes like lit up, almost like he was like, oh, my nightmare isn't that weird, or it's not that unusual or bizarre, and maybe I can tell my dad this and he won't think it's so weird. And he told me what the dream was that he had, and it was like just a instant like, no, this is what my dream was like. And I'm like, oh my God, he did remember it. And he just didn't know if he was safe to tell it with me. And it wasn't until I leveled with him and was vulnerable in that way with him that he felt safe enough to share that with me. So that like was so beautiful to me. And I'm like, wow, I'm going to really have to remember that going forward, that I got to model this for him. I can't just ask him for my dream or for his dreams. I got to be willing to share mine with him also, and share how like the beauty that I get from him, so he knows that they're valuable and that he sees it modeled in his life. So yeah, it was like such a big turning point for me with trying to develop a relationship with him around dreams. So
oh yeah, what a great opportunity. I mean, there are statistics that show in adult relationships that couples who share their dreams have more intimacy and stronger relationships. And I haven't seen studies about parents and kids, but it stands to reason that it would be the same because of what you're talking about. It's a shared vulnerability, and it's modeling how to navigate with, we're talking about dreams, we're also talking about intuition, we're talking about divine intelligence. And so to show kids that they have this resource and that it is something to handle, because it's going to come with nightmares too, and it's going to come, with disturbing or confusing dreams too. But, here's how we work through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I think to end here with you tonight, I would love to ask you kind of point blank, if you could summarize for all of us here tonight, I guess if you could just share your heart in the way of what it's meant for you to have these dreams and the way that they've accompanied you with your motherhood journey and how they continue to do that for you. Just what that means for you to have this in your life, this guiding, beautifying force that companions you as a mother. How does that shape you, and what does that mean for you to have that?
Well, in this case, how it's shaped me is assuring me that there was a plan, there is a plan. And so not just with this particular instance of my relationship with my daughter, but in every aspect of my life, and of course in every aspect of the people who I encounter. Whether they remember their dreams or not, it helps me remember that there is a plan, there is a bigger picture that I'm not always aware of. It's humbling, and it's, to me, very reassuring and comforting. It really is where I get my source of strength and learn how to be more human in the world. But it also is this particular dream and how it all unfolded in terms of finding the dream sometime later and having it help me understand my role as a mother reminds me that dreams are narrative. They're storytelling creatures or storytelling events, and our lives are stories. And yeah, the dreams help us to shape our story. And once we have that shape for our story, once I had my shape for this story, it just makes life so much more full and full of meaning. So I guess that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, very, very beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on here tonight and sharing these beautiful dreams with me and the whole story of you and your journey through motherhood. I just think it was a seriously touching and beautiful ode to that whole I would say chapter of your life, but I don't think there's ever an end to the chapter of
saga
being mother. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, Steve, I really want to thank you too and your partner for creating this podcast, because you're really holding space, on the one-on-one, in terms of our conversation, but also the community of people who listen in, and really creating a space for giving dreams their due. And that's really beautiful. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. That means a lot. It's been such an honor of ours to really create this beautiful ode to dreams in this way. It's just, man, especially after we just released the 2-year anniversary and I got to sit back and really soak in just how beautiful this journey has been to bring this forward into the world and all that it's meant for me these last 2 years. And it's just been so edifying in so many ways that, oh man, I'm so grateful.
Another birthday, by the way, another birthday for our theme, your 2-year birthday of your podcast.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Well, congratulations on that, and congratulations on your brand new baby.
Yes, thank you.
You take good care.
Yes. Well, we'll talk soon. Okay. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Our mission is to bring you story after story about the life-affirming power of dreams, and Tzivia's story does it again. Her dream launched her onto the path of motherhood, and it's so appropriate for us to share it during this season when we celebrate mothers. In Season 2, Episode 7, we brought you Maureen's story about the long journey of Alzheimer's with her mother and the dreams that guided her. Check it out to keep the celebration going. And then there's Season 1, Episode 3 with Linda and the dream that told her how her baby daughter would fit into her life. And I want to share with all the folks out there who have thoughts about being a parent. Watch your dreams for their signs. Watch for opportunities to affirm the possibility if you want it. I know many, many parents who never thought it would happen for them, and others who never wanted it really, until they saw it in a dream or a series of dreams. They saw their future children, and by saying yes in their dreams, they made it real in their lives. Make sure that those dreams make it into your journal. As Tzivia attests to, it may be many years later when you look back and realize you dreamed the future. maybe you dreamed it into being. In addition to being a prolific dreamer, Tzivia teaches people how to express their deepest inner selves by combining writing with dreaming. It opens a gusher of creativity and calls forth into being parts of you waiting for their potential to be actualized. So, calling on writers, poets, and creative people of all stripes, check out her book titled Dreaming on the Page. Dreaming on the Page. She'll teach you how to create your future through dream work. And by the way, she's also on Instagram. Look up Tzivia, Tzivia, Gover, Gover. Steve and I invite you to drop by our website, dreamshapeus.com. We've got music and books and lots of great stuff to share with you there. And for me, J.M. DeBoard, Stevie E, Tzivia, and all the fabulous mothers out there, we want to wish you nighty-night and